What's going on, everybody? My name is Mr. Hat, and today we are covering Jaws 2 now. We got 4 of these to go over for this month of July. Now, as you might notice if you are a longtime viewer of mine, that my voice is probably a little bit more echoey. It sounds a little different, because this room is empty. I'm moving out. I got some stuff to pad the sound, but it's not enough. You take all that shit out and the voice is echoing, so it probably sounds a little different. Sorry, but once I get into my new place, the sound quality should improve. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this movie. What's the synopsis? Well, Mr. Brody once again has to battle this great white shark. It's 4 years later, or so it says, I believe, and this new shark is attacking Amity. Once again, a few people are missing, and Brody has to convince the dumbass mayor that there's a shark out there. He shows them a picture, they don't believe him, blah blah blah, same shit as before. This is like a typical slasher sequel where it takes all those things from the first movie and just redoes them again. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, it's time to go back to the beach, stay there, and talk about Jaws 2 in this week's Horror Franchise Wednesday.
Jaws 2.
Let's go over the little positives that I have for this movie. There's not that much. I was surprisingly underwhelmed by this film. This used to be like my top 5 shark movies growing up. The flaws really seep through this time around. Like, it's just boring. But the things I do like is returning cast. I'm a continuity person. We got Mr. Brody back. You even get a mention of Hooper. He's on that Aurora thing, whatever he called it, the vessel in Jaws 1 that he was going to do, but decided to stay with Brody and Quint. They don't mention Quint in this movie, so I wonder... Oh, that's right, he's dead. We got Arnie from Christine. He's in this. Very underused, but then again, I don't think he was a star during this film. But speaking of Quint, the actor, Robert Shaw, he died the year this movie came out in 1978, I believe. I like the score returns from John Williams, and I like when you see the orca sunk at the bottom of the ocean, like that joyful adventure John Williams music from the first film plays again, but it's like dampened and like softened because it's underwater, the scene. So I like that they bring back some elements of that score, and you know, the adventure music, and of course the theme song. And I guess I like some scenes in this movie. I mean, there's not much tension building, there's not much else to talk about. There's nothing that good about this movie. This movie is boring. Every time the shark's not on screen, you're just like, ugh, kill me. This movie, just like a slasher, makes the main cast a bunch of stupid-ass teenagers that I couldn't give a shit less about. And the first hour or so of this movie is just pointless dialogue, and it's just not funny. There's like these characters that are always trying to be funny. They're saying dumb shit like, did your mom make this punch? No, good. It's terrible. What was the point of that open ceremony? Was there a point, or was it just eating away time? I liked how when Brody got there, he was like, how do I look like I've been here a while? And she was like, act bored. That's the same thing you can tell people who ask, how can I look like I've been watching Jaws 2? Act bored. I find it hard to believe that Brody's son is just willing to go into the ocean now. Like, he wasn't scarred from what happened. Mike, really? Get out of here. Why do they even live there still? Move. They make Brody make these dumbass, like, knee-jerk reaction, like, actions, I guess. Like, he just does crazy shit, like he's shooting a gun on a beach fucking, like, 50 yards away, thinking he's, like, a crack shot all of a sudden. It just doesn't seem Brody. Like, does he have... Like, if he's that insane and doing shit like that, then obviously he's got way too much PTSD. He just needs to move away. The shark in this movie is incredibly fake. Like, there's even moments where you see, like, the skin, like, the material on the face, like, flap and, like, move weirdly. Like, it's just, it bends and contorts. It just looks fucking fake. And they show it way too much. Like, the very open kill, that cliche, like what slashers do, they have the opening kill, just like Jaws 1, except this one's way worse. There's no, like, leaving the shark in the shadows. It's just, like, right up front. You get to see it, frame 1. You just see the shark from the very beginning, so there's no suspense build up. There's no imaginary, like, you don't get to make, like, you know, keep things in your head like the first movie did, and then, like, have it pay off at the end. There's no payoff. And I can't stress how much the characters suck. Like, Brody isn't even, like, the main character. He's just, like, doing the same shit on the side, like, you know, I think there's a shark out there. We don't believe you, guy who was right 4 years ago. Why don't you believe him? He should be a credible source. Once again, they use shark footage, and it's like the shark looks so fucking fake, I can tell when there's a fake shark on screen and the real one. It just takes me out of the moment. Usually sequels up the gore, and they up, like, tits, and they up everything. This one, no gore. There's no limbs. There's hardly any blood. Like, seriously, when people get eaten, it's like they're gone. No blood. And there's quite a few times where the shark will attack someone and just scrape their stomach and then leave them alone. What the fuck? This movie seemed like a lot of it was directed by like a second unit director, and they just took all his footage and were like, we're not gonna leave any footage unused. We're gonna put it all in here. There'll be like moments of like all these montages of like 60 different shots of people walking on the beach and this and that, people's feet, and it's like, ugh. It's like, I get it. There's people at the beach. Can we move on? There's lots of screaming and cheering, like a lot of times. Every time, like, there's a helicopter, scream, cheer. The helicopter lands, scream, cheer. Oh, this happened, scream, cheer. Stop screaming. They scream so loud that it actually, like, hits, like, a too high of a decibel that the mic, like, makes that weird noise, like the boom was too stick, the boom stick was too close. Speaking of which, there's a scene in this movie where you can clearly see a boom mic. They didn't catch that? But yeah, let's go over a couple of my awards. The hottest chick award goes to the shark chick. And the clapper award for best scene is the shark when it's about to eat Mike Brody. Even though it looks fake as hell, I really like that scene. And they even used it for the Jaws ride. Spoiler discussion. Let's go over the little things in this movie. Okay, so we open with the opening kill, and we got the orca that's like at the bottom of the ocean. I like that little callback. And you get that returning like John Williams like adventure music playing. And yeah, let me just say this. I don't know who directed this. Some French guy. He does not know how to direct. He definitely doesn't know how to frame the shark. It's all choppy. A lot of this movie's choppy, and then it shows way too much of the shark. We see it right up front. It's opening kill. We get to see the shark. No more suspense. I would like to add a positive that I like that the shark halfway through the movie gets like a battle scar. It has like a scratch on his face and like a burn. So it like adds a little bit more of a personality to it. Then we meet our cast at this pointless ceremony for God knows what. They're cutting the ribbon. Everything's boring. Another thing I realized is that this movie really feels like the 70s. Whereas Jaws 1, I feel like you could watch it and not even know what decade it was, besides people not using phones and shit. But this movie really does age. This is 2 movies in a row where Mr. and Mrs. Brody talk about having sex, but they don't. Then we get a classic scene, the skier death. The shark comes up and knocks her off the ski, kills her off camera, and then that one chick, she's like panicking on the boat, and she just like pours gasoline on herself on purpose. It looks like it's on purpose. I'm not sure what they were going for. But she's like pouring gasoline on herself because she's like, I'd rather burn than be eaten. I'm not sure which one I would choose in that moment. In this movie, the son is clearly like 5 years older, Mike. But then the other one, Sean, who was like 4 in the first movie, he should be like 8 or 9. He looks like a couple years older. He doesn't look that much older. Like, there's a huge difference between the 2 kids. Like, continuity-wise with their age, doesn't look like it lines up. Then we get this monotone expert when they have this orca whale, or it's a killer whale, and it's got these giant chunks. There's the gore in this movie. It's a dead whale. It's kind of like a repeat of that one scene in Jaws 1 where they find the body, the arm, except in this one they find a killer whale. But anyways, there's this expert, and this whole time Brody's trying to get this information out of her, like, it's a great white, right? It's a great white. And she's like, I don't know. I can't tell you. And then by like 30 seconds later, she's like, yep, it was a great white. It's like, but she has like this monotone voice. She says every line in the same tone, pitch, just speed. She's got no emotions at all. She's a big old plank of wood talking. I find it funny that Brody's like trying to suggest that the shark that's killing people in this movie is like somehow related to the Bruce shark in the first one. Like, is it the brother, the sister, the mom, the aunt? And then the monotone experts like, sharks don't take things personally, Mr. Brody. Yeah, tell that to Jaws 4. I'm not sure how early jump scares became a thing, but it definitely started here in 1978 with the charred body in the ocean just coming out of the water somehow, like it was connected to a board that Brody was trying to get. And then just like the body comes out, has that jump scare music like blah. Then we get Brody making poison tipped bullets because he thinks he can just kill the shark with poison. And then he wastes all 6 of those bullets into the ocean, shooting at a school of like bluefish, because he's a moron. I like how when he was up on the shark tower, the mayor and city council guy, whatever, the PR guy, they were so upset that he was up there using it Well, if you don't want anyone to ever use it, why the fuck do you have one? And I just thought it was hilarious that they didn't want anyone to notice him up there, but they spent a full minute looking up there while they had like a tour group with them. It's like, if you don't want to draw attention to it, why are you staring at it? Just like in the first movie, everyone outside the main cast, which in this movie is just Brody and the mayor, I guess, I don't know. They're all terrible. Everybody else outside, like the main couple, like it's just shit, 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 shit. And then you get this little girl who is competing for worst child actor ever. It's a shark tower. I saw one on TV. He's looking for sharks. Brody has a Man of the Year award, 1975, when the first movie came out. I thought that was cool. It's just like a little thing in the background. You don't really notice it, but hey, he got an award for that little heroic action he took at the end of the first movie, so he got rewarded, so we know that now. And then Brody's house has these giant door shutters. I've never seen anything like it before. I just wanted to point it out. You know how windows have shutters? His house has a shutter from like the floor all the way to the roof outside the doors. So I thought that was hilarious. The fact that nobody believes Brody when he says there's a shark and he shows him a picture of clearly a shark is bullshit. And then they fire him. Woo! What's that do for the story? Nothing, because he still goes out there. He hijacks a police boat to go save his son. So, whatever. They have a nanny now, too? Like, when did that happen? Because of his actions in the first movie, he could afford a nanny? What does the nanny do for the story? Nothing. So I was just like, why do they have a nanny? Unless she's gonna die. Then we get this scene where there's like all these divers, and they go down, and the shark pops up just to like scrape one of them again. See, there's like a bunch of people in this movie that don't get eaten. There's like 20 people and like 4 people die. But I do like that when he like goes up to the surface, he like, it's, I forget what it's called, but divers are not supposed to go up too quick because then they get like bubbles or something. They get air in the wrong place or whatever. I don't know the scientific term for it, but it can kill you or severely hurt you. And that happened to this guy. And movies usually ignore that shit. They just go up to the top real quick and they're okay. But in this movie, they were correct. They did their research and this guy was injured because he went up too fast. So, good job. I like how somehow the shark was able to bump into this boat and then the boat just slid across the ocean like 100 yards to get away from the guy who fell off the boat so he could conveniently not make it back to the boat in time and get eaten. And then we got the classic scream from the chick who goes, "It's a shark!" Okay, then we get the big scene, the big climax, where all the dumbass teens, the Friday the 13th characters, that's what they are, they're all together on all these different types of pontoon boats or whatever, canoes, sails, and as soon as the shark attacks one of those boats, the other 5 they all just panic and crash into each other because the ocean's not big enough. There's just not enough space in the ocean, so they all crash into each other like fucking morons. They do more damage to each other than the shark does to them. Then we get the helicopter that lands, and this guy has the thickest chin strap beard I've ever seen. It's like an Amish beard, but it's like a chin strap, and I guess Amish, I don't know, I think it's a chin strap because it doesn't go around or whatever. But it's just so thick. It's like, that's another thing that dates this movie, is the style. Everyone has like an afro. But the shark takes out the helicopter, and then all these like helicopter blades, the helicopter blades hit the water and they like break apart, and it's sending like metal shrapnel towards the teens, and not a single one is hit. Bullshit. If this movie came out today, you bet your ass somebody would have gotten hit, decapitated, neck sliced, arm chopped off. But they didn't have the budget, or they didn't give a shit. Then Brody shows up and does what the dumbass teens do. He sees the shark, panics, and crashes into the smallest island in the middle of the fucking ocean. What a moron. Like father, like dumbass teens. And then this girl gets eaten, and because the director doesn't know how to direct deaths, I guess, he puts the camera behind the shark, and the shark, like, chomps down on her somehow and carries her away, but we don't see anything. There's no blood. And then we get this woman who's like screaming over and over again, and like the camera just keeps like zooming in like more and more to make it more dramatic. It's so over the top dramatic that you just can't help but laugh. And then another teen barely gets eaten. Like she's floating in the middle of the ocean. The shark is coming right towards her, and then she doesn't do any like maneuvers. She just sits there and it like nicks her stomach. Like, all right, I just want a little taste of you. That's it. Like, you just chomp down on this person, probably chomped down the helicopter person, ate 4 people today. When are you gonna get full, by the way? And then you nick this person and then you nick her? Like, what the fuck? And then we get the death of the shark. This one, he electrocutes him. They got this foreshadow moment at the beginning where they like lift up the electrical like wire. And they're like, what's that? It's high voltage, don't touch it. But they bring it back later and Brody's sitting there holding it, and then the shark comes up and he throws it in his mouth. The shark bites down on it and electrocutes, and like smoke's coming out of its eyes. And they use this death in the shark ride at Universal, except now it doesn't exist no more. But the shark's charred on fire and it just sinks to the bottom of the ocean. If I was Brody, I'd go get that fucking shark and chop off its head and put it on my wall. But that's it in Jaws 2. They just sail away in the ocean and the credits roll as Brody's paddle boating away, just like the first one. This movie is basically a repeat of 1, except worse. I will say that the Blu-ray for this is pretty good, so get it. So far, all these Blu-rays look good. I haven't seen 3 and 4 in a while, so I can't tell you how good the Blu-ray is, but this 3-pack of 2, 3, and 4, worth it. I think it's like $10, Amazon, you can get it, 10, 15. But at the end of the day, this movie has enough entertainment in the second half of the movie to where it barely skates by this rating I'm about to give it. And that is, when it comes to Jaws 2, maybe if you are a shark movie fan and you love the first one, maybe check this one out at Redbox. The Mr. Hat Award for Best Kill goes to the Amish helicopter guy. I really like this death. You don't really get to see it, but I think it's the most badass one. It's kind of like a repeat of Jaws 1 where he takes out the boat, and this one he takes out a helicopter. And the Mr. Twig Award for Worst Death goes to the skier slash chick blowing herself up. That one, I guess. They all suck. There's a lot of them. They're all the same. They suck. And those are my thoughts on Jaws 2, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. What did you think about this movie? Have you seen it yet? I hope you have. It's 40 years old. Post your thoughts on this movie in the comments below. Do you like it better than the first one? Explain yourself. Is it better than 3 and 4? If you like this video, you can show me that you liked it just by clicking on this like button over here. And if you can follow me on my social media links, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds to see more. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.